Good morning, everybody. Welcome at the press center of the Berlinale, but also welcome at the Berlinale Talent Campus. This is a special session today. The Talent Campus officially ended last night, but we have a very special occasion coming back here to the center of the Berlinale at the press center with a morning after session. In the audience, many talents, and the session today, and we're all very excited about it, will be with Willem Dafoe and will be moderated by campus moderator Peter Cowie. Please give them a warm welcome.
Are we good behind this desk?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Seems a shame, but okay.
Okay, can we just have a minute of photographs and then we'll get down to business here.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Willem Dafoe is one of the most versatile actors of our time. He's played every kind of role from Jesus Christ to the Green Goblin. And he's been beheaded in David Lynch's Wild at Heart. He's had his hand mutilated by the Nazis in The English Patient. He's even had boiling hot wax dripped on his naked chest by Madonna, which is probably a fate better than death. He's worked with a string of great directors, Oliver Stone, David Lynch, Martin Scorsese, Alan Parker, Anthony Minghella, and the list goes on. He was a founding member of the very respected Worcester Group, which has performed stage productions both in America and here in Europe. And he was a member of the international jury last year here at the Berlinale, and we've already seen him in two pictures this week, Adam Resurrected by Paul Schrader, and The Dust of Time by Theo Angelopoulos. So, welcome.
Thanks.
We're delighted to have you. This is the very final session of the Berlinale Talent Campus this year, which took place in another location, but that was finished up last night, which is why we're actually here, which gives us a bit less space, but still. Willem, the theme of this year's Talent Campus, or the motto, was turning points in a career, the moment it all seemed to come together. Was there a turning point in your own career when suddenly you felt you were destined to be an actor?
Okay. No.
Okay.
But how I became an actor is very particular and is partly to do with where I'm from, partly to do with the times. Because I really never trained to be an actor. I went to school for a little while in an acting program in a state university. But I mostly just always gravitated towards situations and people. I dropped out of school in order to work with a small company in Wisconsin, in the middle of the States. And then after working with them for a couple of years, a small company that made their own work, then I went to New York fully intending to become a commercial theater mainstream actor. But I looked around and what was really I was attracted to was the stuff that was happening downtown, and with one group of people. So then I started working with them. My point is, I always thought I was going to do something else. It was only after making my living as an actor for many years that I say, I guess I'm an actor. So turning point, not really. Maybe the turning point was, when I stopped having other jobs, which was quite early.
When did the first screen role come along?
But I was a theater actor with a company for a good time before that. First screen role is hard to define because I was working with friends making small movies down in New York in this kind of, there was a period where there was a lot of, everybody and their brother was making movies You know, little Super 8 movies and places like the Collective for Living Cinema down on White Street was showing. They would have 3 different movies every night. There was lots going on, but the first kind of movie that played, got real theatrical releases and that sort of thing, was probably The Loveless by Catherine Bigelow.
Oh, really?
It was her first movie. Yeah.
She was at Venice this year with Hurt Locker.
Yeah, Hurt Locker. Yeah.
And you've been very loyal to certain directors. For example, you took a part, which I'm sure you didn't want to take, but in Adam Resurrected as the Nazi commandant, but you did it because you'd worked with Paul Schrader on The Walker, which we saw last year or the year before, and also Light Sleep. I remember you were great in that. So.
Actually, I've worked with Paul like 5 times. Also in, I think, a good movie called Autofocus. Do you know that?
Never saw it. No.
You know, that's the funny part. With independent movies, sometimes they don't get their day in court here. You really don't know? You aren't aware of that movie?
Well, I'm sure I know most of Paul's big films, but we just heard this week that in the press that Bertrand Tavernier's In the Electric Mist is going straight to DVD in the States. So even the film with Tommy Lee Jones can also go.
Everything's going to DVD.
Unlike a lot of Hollywood actors, as you said, you've worked on stage. And how difficult is it to switch from one idiom to the other?
Well, the stage that I did mostly was with the Wooster Group. A couple of exceptions, but mostly for almost 30 years with the Wooster Group. So that's a particular kind of performing. It's not traditional theater, is my point. I think the biggest difference, I don't know, it's specific to each movie, but I think the biggest thing is when you, on a movie, generally speaking, not always, it depends on the movie, you go to a location, you make the scene, you go away. Next scene, next location. You're always dealing with first impulse. You're always dealing with the time frame is very different. Where in the theater you sit with material and you keep on revisiting it. And as a performer, you keep on reinvesting it. And that is kind of the heart of what performing is for me. Taking something familiar and breathing life into it. Again, taking a score, taking a choreography, and I mean that literally or otherwise, and dancing it. Excuse me. But that's the helpful way that I think about it. Where in film, that choreography is seldom really articulated. It's a little looser, you don't have to be as precise, and a lot of films are made in the editing room. So I think
also
they're very different.
The night after night issue is important too.
I guess that's what I'm referring to, that you're visiting the same material over and over again. It's a little more like life. You know, you're doing things that you've done a million times, and you're saying, oh, I know how this goes. Let me see if I can do this. You know, this can be interesting for me today, whether it's eating or you can imagine. You know?
You're not paid so much, then. That's the trouble. Having made about 20 films here in Europe, how would you characterize the difference between filming here on this continent and filming in particularly Hollywood?
Well, you know, I'm always attracted to work with auteurs, and I think, generally speaking, auteurs are more supporting in Europe than they are in the States. That's all. When you're in the States, there's a wide range of movies, of kinds of movies being made. It's getting less and less. The range of them is getting less and less. But I think the thing that everything is oriented to is, of course, Hollywood. And Hollywood does some great things, but they also, almost without exception, always have an eye on the audience, and they're calculating what its appeal is going to be. And that's always something that is hanging over every decision, whether it's a small movie or a big movie. Less so here because there's a different tradition of cinema as art here, just broadly speaking. And in the States, I think there's generally, if something, I mean, this is not profound, we all know it, but if something is popular, then it's good. If something is not popular, then it's not good. That's the kind of a broad equation. There isn't a great general understanding that there are some movies that are made aren't for everybody. They aren't supposed to be for anybody. Everyone seems to treat, because culturally, I guess because they're so used to the capitalist model, they treat every movie as if it's supposed to have a broad appeal.
Your output is quite amazing. It has been in the last few years. I think you've been doing 4, 5, even 6 movies in a year. How do you keep up that pace, going from location to location, learning new parts?
That's a little deceptive because I mix it up. I do small roles with big roles. So usually I might do 2, 3, 4 movies a year. But maybe 2 of those are only a couple of weeks' work. But then one may be 9 months' work. I mean, in terms of preparation or making it. So,
how long did something like you went to Romania to film Adam Resurrected?
That's
how
quite
long
short.
Did that take?
That's quite short.
Okay.
But that's clearly like a supporting role.
Yeah.
But then, like this, when you're the principal actor, sometimes it's 3, 4, 5 months.
Light Sleeper, for example.
Light Sleeper, or recently something like the Lars von Trier movie that I just shot. Ends up being 2, 3 months for them.
How was that?
Great.
It's
Very good.
It's going to come out.
It's going to be a strong movie, huh?
It's going to come out in Cannes, I think.
I don't know. I can't say.
Yeah. Wow. Was it shot in Denmark entirely, or did you?
No, it was shot in good old Germany.
Right. Okay. Good. You work with so many directors, and the one that obviously everybody thinks of you because you were so brave to take it is playing Jesus Christ in The Last Temptation of Christ. I mean, how exhausting was that?
It wasn't exhausting because it was a good part.
Yeah.
It was a good director, and I love going to work every day. I'm like I'm like a ox or something. I like waking up and having very clear thing to do, and that was a very reactive role. I'm in practically every frame of the movie, and it was shot on location, so it had a lot of the elements of what I like about that attract me about movies. My life as I know it really was left behind, and I was really able to enter into this other world in a very complete way, just because there was nothing else. I was staying at a lousy hotel, and you'd wake up, you had no trailer, you'd go, you'd put on your Jesus drag.
You got 5 minutes to get on the cross.
And you'd work for 12 hours, you'd be tired, you'd go home, you'd read the Bible or do whatever support things you were doing. No, seriously. Because I thought, we're telling the story this way, I should know how the other guys tell it. But so it was a real complete experience, and at the end of it, and when you get to be with the material in that full kind of way, it's always more satisfying because you can go deeper, you can relax into it, you can address more different kinds of impulse. Yeah, it's almost like, I always feel sorry sometimes when you're working on a film and you're working every day and you see an old character actor come in and he's got a big scene to do for one day.
Yeah.
How do you ramp up for that? How do you relax into that? How do you know what the world is, You really have to, there's a tendency for them to come armed, and do their thing and hope to get out alive. When you're there every day, the first day is always, I hate the first day on any movie, and then after that you slowly relax into it, and it becomes the hard line between your life and the fictional life gets a little more blurred and relaxed. And so I'm going on, but Last Temptation was the absolute model of that.
Was the after effects noticeable? Did people come up and try and touch your robe in the streets, and did they identify?
The opposite. No, you know, there were a lot of problems. That movie, you know, was used, at least in the States, was used by the religious right as a recruitment point. That's all.
David Lynch, I think, is one of the most interesting directors you work with, because he must be a very elusive director. I mean, the way he suggests, everything seems to be suggested and a little ambiguous.
No, he just gives you a good setup. I mean, I show up and he's like, there's your costume, Willem. You know? And it's like, I'm used to going in and people having racks and racks. I'll try this on. What do you think about this? What do you have any ideas? You know, you make it with them. In this case, he had a very clear idea, and it was kind of cool. You know, really, literally, like a hanger, you know, with a costume on, and this is your costume. But he chose well, and the second I put it on, and the second I don't know whether you know that movie, but Wild at Heart, I had fake teeth. The second I put in the fake teeth, the second I put on that wardrobe, that was it. I didn't have to do anything. You know, sometimes the costume does it.
In Spider-Man, I'm told that you did quite a bit of your own stunting on the glider. I mean, how much is it an obligation for a star to be fit in Hollywood today? You have to be.
Look, I'm a theater actor, and no, I think it's important to be. I don't know. I don't even think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, the theater that I come from is quite physical, so it's never been it's never been a question of being fit or not. You know.
Another exhausting shoot must have been Platoon on location.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really interesting experience, because it was a low-budget movie, and you had a bunch of young guys. I was one of the old-timers, as a matter of fact. That were playing war. We were tapping into this, you know.
You were one of the good guys, though, weren't you?
I guess, depends who you talk to. Yeah. I'm a little thrown, because Platoon seems like so long ago.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you want to talk, I'm sure you've been talking yesterday an awful lot about the Angelopoulos film, but how
Not so much. I mean, you know, they're funny, because they're like, oh, we're working you hard. I'm doing some press, but by typical, like an American film standards, man, they work you like a dog. You do 300 interviews in one day, you know.
But Angelopoulos is famous for using specialty actors, I would say, like Ellen Josephson, for example, has appeared in his films. And there I suppose you just got a phone call from your agent one day to say that Angelopoulos.
No, not at all.
How did you get that part?
No. In this case, I met him at a film festival in Israel, and literally we were just hanging out together a little bit. Yeah. And I admired his work, but I wouldn't. You know, you can watch something. Generally, when I see something that I like, I think, why am I not in that movie, or why am I not working with those people? But in this case, it didn't make sense to me particularly, so I never, you know, had like a dream necessarily of working in a Teo Angelopoulos movie. But the guy's in front of me. I like his movies very much. I start to really like being with him. He is like his movies are. He's poetic, philosophical. He says many kind of mysterious, evocative things. So I, when he asked me to do the movie, which he did quite directly, I said yes. And then it was just a struggle for him to get the production together.
Yeah. Great.
So that was a sweet one. That was about as direct as it gets. You meet the filmmaker and he says, hey, you know what? I've been thinking, maybe you should do this thing. Would you like to?
Yeah.
Here, read this. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'd love to do it. Like that.
Well, everybody was very shattered last year when Anthony Minghella died so young, but you work with him on English Patient. Do you have fond memories of that?
Very fond memories of shooting it. I will say that I was quite shocked when I saw the movie, because the movie, it was one of those movies where the cut really didn't reflect so much what we shot, and I think there was lots of material, and the way they ordered the material had to favor a central story, and I'm not sure, for my taste, that central story is the most interesting part of the material. I think the Kip story is very interesting. I think the Caravaggio story is very interesting, and I think they were kind of molded into devices to frame the central, very English romance story.
Very different to the book, too, wasn't it?
Yes, and the book is probably unfilmable, but we filmed a lot of kind of more poetic and slightly stranger and harder to account for images and sequences that are in the book.
Well,
but
I know
Anthony was a very sweet, very thoughtful, very bright guy, and it was quite a shock.
Would you have worked with him again, do you think?
Well, apparently not. I mean, he never asked me again, and I'm always hurt.
Well, I know you want to ask Willem Dafoe questions, so do we have microphones? Yes, we have a microphone, so for the sake of being recorded for posterity, if you would put up your hand. There's this gentleman here on the right, over here. First one, okay, go ahead.
Hi, I'm wondering who your biggest mentor has been throughout your career.
Nobody. No, look, I think I've had my influences are probably outside of the cinema and probably outside of the theater. They're probably more from the art world or the dance world, really, to tell you the truth, because I get most inspired probably when I go see visual art, more than anything else.
This gentleman.
Hi, it's Chris from Belgium. We all heard about the rant of Christian Bale. Similar stories are about George C. Scott. Do you ever had the frustration, I mean, when your concentration is broken by an incident on the set, that you really felt, going very deep in this frustration?
I come from a theater tradition where you see everything, there aren't flats. We don't cover up the technology, and we don't cover up stuff that's around us. And we get trained very much to deal with doing our thing, and, an elephant could drop out of the sky, and if we want to keep on going, we either deal with the elephant or we don't. But we should be able to have that option. So there's one part of me that says, poor baby. Somebody's walking around in the background. But then there's another part of me that is very fussy when you're struggling or you're having troubles with concentration, or you just don't want any extra information. When someone walks into an eye line, it kills you. And I'm very sweet on a set, and I feel very embarrassed to do anything but be very polite to everyone, because they work hard, and it's a matter of principle. But I've on Paul Schrader's movie, we were in Romania, and there were a bunch of kind of blue collar working guys around, and they didn't know movies, and poor guys, they didn't know. And one time I was struggling because I wasn't finding something, so I was frustrated anyway, and I was really taking everything I could to bring stuff together. And one of these, workers walked into my eye, and I thought I was going to kill him. So I understood that rant that Christian Bale has. He's just not very sympathetic because of his position. So it was kind of a non-story. Shame on the press, don't they have better things to talk about?
Yeah.
At least, even if for cinema press or even celebrity press, there's more interesting things to talk about than that.
Okay, another question. One over here.
Hi there. You said you're attracted to working with auteurs, and I think that word's used in a lot of different ways nowadays. So I wanted to know exactly what you mean by that, and what element of that attracts you rather than the other way.
Okay, I guess auteur to me means author. It means a guy, a woman, a person who makes their thing, personal cinema, that is not a stylist, that is not necessarily taking things and interpreting things or adapting them, although that can all happen too. They're making work. They're making a view. Does that make sense? Push me.
Personal filmmakers as opposed to studio.
Personal filmmakers. The parallel with actors is, you've got actors that want to find material to support the thing that they like to do, the persona that they like to perform in, and then you have others that I kind of put myself in more, the group that likes to find material that they have to bend themselves to.
Is this on? I think that the negative side to it that is perhaps often used at the moment as an auteur is someone that won't collaborate because they're saying I'm an auteur.
I don't know about that, because auteurs are the greatest collaborators there are.
I think maybe the word's been sort of corrupted now.
Maybe,
which is why I was
but do you know
when
I say auteur, is that useful word as opposed to some guy that gets hired by a studio to take a script that is written by a screenwriter that is probably from a popular novel or is a vehicle for a big star. That's a different world. This, when I say auteur, I guess I mean a person that makes personal cinema. Usually is the writer, not always.
And can often spend years preparing it before it goes into production, just because they stay with it.
Actually, I'm not satisfied with my definition, but don't bust my balls unless you got a better one.
Okay.
You knew what I was talking about, you little smarty pants.
I have a question right in the middle, yes?
Hello. Just before I came to Berlin, actually, I revisited The Life Aquatic, and I just wanted to say that you were great in that, and that really entertained me a lot. So, but my question...
That's a very good movie. It
is. It really is.
It's a totally overlooked movie.
I think so.
It's his best movie, I think.
Yeah, it's great. But my question was actually, as an actor, when you get a script and you're looking at it and you're looking at the character, what is it that draws you to the character? And do you ever see something maybe in that character that the writer didn't really define, and you felt you could take it further and expand it, and as a result take the role?
Good questions, but a lot of questions. When I get a script, I think it's either so familiar that I feel like I know that thing that they're talking about, or I know that character, and I want to do those things. Or it's so far away from me that I like the idea of, the transformation, the exercise in empathy, the going towards someone else's story to make it my own, which is usually really satisfying. So it's kind of the two poles, like, oh, I know what this is, I could really have fun doing this, or the other one, I don't know what this is at all, but something about it makes me think I do it, and if the director, and it's always going to be a director for some reason I'm either curious about or respect, if they want me to do it, then that's enough authority, to try to do it. As far as seeing something defined, I'm very loose. I mean, I'm really old-fashioned pretender. I just, I might as well smell scripts as read them. How I make my choices is very intuitive. And I think, sometimes I think, I'm not trying to be like, I'm sharing something private. No, sometimes when I see people that really make performances, like craft performances, like leave a room in a scene and then have some gesture that tags it, I go, wow, I would never do that. I would just walk out of the room. Really. And there's a part of me that hates it and a part of me that likes it. I hate it because sometimes it's self-conscious and kind of show-offy and kind of beside the point, and it's about the actor. But then there's another part of me that says, well, maybe I don't think about this stuff hard enough. Maybe I'm too interested in experience, or inspiration, or maybe I should be more conscientious about planning things out. So your thing about how well author defines something, I never know what something is when I begin. I just have a sense of proposal of possibility. And sometimes at the end, I don't know either. And I don't say that in a cute way. I really don't know. But that doesn't mean it can't be a satisfying experience. Because given the nature of the medium, someone else can order or frame my experiences and make something really beautiful.
How important,
without me knowing what it is.
How important is a good agent in all of this? I mean, how do the scripts come to you? Do they come?
Depends. I suppose it depends what kind of career people want. Whether they're career people or whether they're adventurers or whether they're artists. I don't know.
But does your agent get tons of script? Does he filter through and then send you only the ones that they think that you would be interested in?
In the States you have a man, if you're been around a while or you're busy guy, you usually have a manager and an agent, and the agent is kind of the, more fields scripts, and then the manager kind of schemes with you about situations, getting in the room with people and all that. Agent's very important. But as I say, it depends what kind of career you want. I mean, sometimes I envy these guys that clearly are seen as possible people that can carry a movie, like they're usually really handsome. No, we won't go there. But a really handsome guy, he can fail in about 5 movies, and they keep on giving him good material and keep on giving big budgets. He's got a good agent, you know what I'm saying? So I'm envious about that. But then at the same time, I don't exactly want that kind of career. So maybe I've got a good agent.
No, but you have survived, whereas a lot of people who have bad agents, I think, they make bad choices, and within a few years they can just vanish from the scene.
Work finds you, and you find work. It's always a combination of the two, and of course a lot involves luck. But I don't know. I don't know what agents do.
They just take for 15%.
No. Look, I love my agent. I love my manager, and they're very important. But it's all individual. No, it's all individual. It's about relationships. That's all. I mean, I don't come from a world where I don't switch these guys around. I don't know.
Another question? I've got 2. There's there, the back, with his hand just behind you.
I've got a question about the Shadow of the Vampire.
Yep.
How did you prepare for your role? Because I thought it was really interesting in the sense that you've got these 2 previous performances to base it on, and also it's a very...
One, really.
And also it's a very...
What was the second one?
I guess Nosferatu and Klaus Kinski's...
Not at all.
Not at all.
No, different kind of movie. Totally different.
Sure.
Okay, I'm cutting you off, but...
I guess my
got me a little.
also based on basically more of a creature rather than, I guess, something almost supernatural.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. That's my question.
I don't know whether... I don't think this movie is widely seen, Shadow of the Vampire, but it's a movie where about the... Well, it's a fictional... If you didn't see it, forget it. For the people that saw it, otherwise we'll be here all day, because I can never explain stories. It was really fun because I had a model, and it's great to start out by copying something.
Yeah.
And copying something is very useful, and that's what I did. And of course, then it turns into something else. So it was all about finding the mask, the literal one, and the other than literal one, and investing it. So, and that was a fun role to do because I had a lot of heavy makeup and I had had a very clear choreography or a way of being in my head. That was I was protected, you know. Then I could have fun. A lot of work was done for me. It played on my imagination. When I say protected I wasn't in any crisis to make something.
Okay, I have two questions over here. The lady in the second row, and then there's...
Hi.
Hi.
I've got a question. I wonder if you all ever had a problem approaching a role or ever a problem with your role. You just didn't get it, didn't find a relationship. And then I wonder, how did you solve that? And what's your general usual way of approaching a role?
Yes, I've had problems. No, I have, but I can only say that after the fact because it's not over until it's over. I think usual way of approaching the role, I think I aspire to each time reinvent how to approach a role. And it only makes sense because each role is different and how you function in a movie is different. What your function is, how you're placed in the constellation that is the movie, how it's built, whether you're carrying the movie, whether you're just here for that scene, whether you're filler, whether you're the punch, whether you're the lyrical part. You can't consciously explain these things, but it's very important to say to yourself always, start from the beginning, and what are we doing here? Where do we think we want to go, and then be very flexible in changing your mind about that. But as far as you don't know that don't know how to approach something until it's over, I think, and even then it's kind of pointless to say, wow, I was really bad, or I really didn't get that. But I'm sure it's happened.
Okay, lady in the second row now.
I have a question. You said I never had a mentor. You said
I never what?
Had a mentor. Explicitly,
never had mentor, yeah.
But you were inspired.
I did. I've had probably millions of mentors, but I can't say I've ever had a model.
All right, but you were inspired by art and ballet, and I'm wondering, could you be more explicit in how you bring that inspiration into your work as an actor or your life, or into a film? You know, with an example or so, because it remains very abstract.
You know, it's all about when I go see something that I think is beautiful or expresses something that makes me feel, excited or see in a different way.
Maybe choreography, the way you move on stage or...
No. Let's go back. No, I really want to be thoughtful about this. When I see... I may not be able to do it right now. It has something to do with when I see something that I know where it comes from, or I see something about how it's made and what it is, it puts me in contact of what making things is about. And it's not about ideas, it's not about who I am, it's not even expressing about something that I want to express. It's making things. And when I see really great art, and it can be very intellectual, it can be even very conceptual. Somehow that inspires me and reminds me that making things is a very basic and almost sacred thing. And it puts me back in touch with that. And I guess that's deeply what I mean about inspiration. And that's deeply what I say, makes me think, wow, what I do, it's okay, it is useful. Because the other part, the sensation as an actor, feels very selfish. Because I'm always seeking that place where I get lost. I mean, people talk about it a lot, I am nothing, I am everything. You get lost in the gesture, you become the gesture. I mean, that kind of state you seek over and over again like a junkie. But that feels selfish. But then when you see someone else take something, you can see where it came from, and then you see a beautiful thing made. You see the ABC. You want to hop on that train. Okay?
Kevin Kline trained as a dancer, and you can see then the way he moves and
no, he can do many things, but I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, well, a friend of mine was with him in the same
really?
place. Okay, another question, gentleman. Yep, with the mic.
I was just wondering if, because you always emphasize your theater background, if when it's
I don't.
fine,
I don't really.
Okay, that wasn't really.
I mean, I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, but I think it's unusual for people to continue with a company for 30 years and still, once they start making movies, they usually go away.
I was wondering if you use, the normal or modern technologies in film, like video playback or watching the dailies, to judge yourself, or do you wait until the end? Or next part of the question, I guess, to some extent, is what your ambitions are towards, directing your own picture.
Okay. As far as playback and dailies, never over my dead body. No, I don't like it. It takes the mystery away from it. I always think it's going to even be better than it is. So why rob me of that pleasure? And I really do mean that, because the experience is always better than the movie. And also, I tell myself, and I think it's true, if I see like dailies or I see playback, if I like what I see, it doesn't help me. If I don't like what I see, it doesn't help me. Because performing for me, I think it is for a lot of people, if you do it in a sincere, open way, you're always battling. There's a confidence factor and an authority factor to pretend. And if you threaten that, it's fragile, and self-consciousness can really come galloping in. You can try to save yourself in the middle of trying to do something, and that's when you kill yourself. So if you like it, you can be poisoned by the vanity or the pressure to keep up the good work. If you don't like it, you can say, oh, I don't have it, and then you lose your confidence. It's that simple for me.
And then
occasionally,
do you want to direct?
Oh, yeah. Occasionally, though, just one thing. Occasionally with playback, it's useful if you've got a shitty monitor and it's not very clear and you can see what the shot is. I'm good with that kind of thing. But, I mean, for example, to look at a close-up and see the qualities in your face, oh, man, you don't want to look at that.
That's right.
But if it's a big shot and you want to see how you running across the street, what the rhythm is next to a car coming and the crane going up, that's helpful. But that's abstract because I don't see myself in there. I only see abstraction. I only see moving forms. As far as the directing, that's real easy. No, I'm a doer. I'm not a watcher.
What about writing?
Writing, I've done some writing, but not formally. I mean, usually to fix things that the director works with you on the day, or you improvise. That's writing, a kind of writing. But that's not like an ambition. That's not an identity. But I love doing it. Because it's another kind of problem solving.
Another question? The lady here. Black.
Hi, I have two questions. One is in Wes Anderson's Life Aquatic, you played a German, and being a German, I thought it was well done. How did you prepare for that? Was there a model? Or
Was there a model?
Yeah, was there? Yeah.
No, in fact, you know, it's funny because, no, it was just a sense. I mean, that was an intuitive thing. I mean, I was clear that this guy was like a blowhard, and he was also a guy that, this isn't just German, but it's pretty good. You know, he's like a guy that acts like he's got it under control, but it's like it exposes the myth of German efficiency, okay? And the myth of the Superman, you know? So it was an idea. And for something like the accent, you know, I thought, you know, like the way I tell jokes, you know, I can do a German accent like that, but it's not really a German accent. It's just from hearing German friends and all that. Should I go to a dialogue coach? Should I practice to make it better? And I really thought that's the kind of thing where I talk about process. I think that's not what this is about. It's not about an accent. It's not really, it's not even a real person. So who gives a shit whether it's a good German accent? As long as it has a flavor, and as long as it lets me pretend I'm this guy. It might be oppressive if I tried to make the accent better. Anyway, spin off.
Another question?
Hold on, I have one more. Sorry.
Okay, one more, and then we have time for one more after that.
Okay. Have you ever worked with a first-time director, or would you consider it?
I have.
Who was that?
I've worked with many. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Is it on? Yeah. I just want to know briefly, as in terms of the process, which were your favorite directors to work with, and also alternatively, which ones did you not like? Not necessarily character-wise, but more like the technique that they used.
I can't say names, and I try not to have favorites, because it's kind of like you know, what are you going to do with that? But the truth is, my favorite experience is when the director needs me. Yeah. And I really feel like that, and they trust me. They don't have to even understand me. It's amazing. It really has to do with the quality of their watching, and the quality of their wanting to make something with you. And I'll get teary here in a second, but it's a really profoundly, it's a sweet, sweet relationship. So, for all, those are hard to find, you know, and then there's the other guys where it's a job, and they can respect you, they can even get a great performance, they can help you in all kinds of ways, but it doesn't touch me the same way. It doesn't, it's not as emotional. So I guess I really like that tightness. And it's not even understanding, it's more about trust and kind of a courage to risk something.
Okay, the gentleman in the green cap has been waiting for quite a while, so...
Right. I just wanted to ask you, which script is the best one you never got to do? And also, which film would you most like to be remembered for or associated with?
I don't plan on dying anytime soon.
Sounds like an obituary, doesn't it?
Best script that I ever didn't get to do? Yeah, you know, I can't remember right now. If I think of it, I'll tell you. No, I mean in the next couple of minutes I'll think.
Okay, in that case, one more. Gentleman with the red hair in the front now.
Those kind of things you just block out. I think. I do, I really do. Pardon? Yeah. Exactly like that.
Okay, one more question.
I just had a question about working with David Lynch again. So he's got a very specific mood in his films and is able to guide actors to a very specific performance style, I've noticed. And so I know you said he had a very matter-of-fact setup with introducing you to your character, but I was just wondering, when you're shooting the scene and it's quite an intense scene and you're with Laura Dern in a motel room or in the bank with the gun, you know, how he guides you to that intensity and how he creates that mood for you so you can do your thing.
Good setup. I don't feel him, you know. I don't feel him. He just makes everything good around you, so you know what has to be done. There's no discussion. He gives you everything you need, and then he says, go, boy, you know. He may say something abstract, you know, like, I see this scene going from kind of green to brown. He might. That makes him sound kind of odd, but he's not odd. He's beautifully straightforward. But I can't emphasize enough, you know, if everything around you, it sort of tells you what has to be done. If you give over to it and say, oh, this story is going this way, I'm pretending this, and it just goes. And that feeling is beautiful. So you pray to find those directors that make a complete world, and then you enter it in good faith, and on the good days, something clicks. And, you know, it gets its own rhythm, it gets its own life.
Is it all about rehearsal, preparation?
No, not always. Like that scene with Laura Dern, we shot that so quick and without any conversation. Yeah. It's not about rehearsal.
Well, I know you've got you've just sandwiched this in among so many engagements. We're absolutely thrilled that you did. We're thrilled that you accepted so early, because you are a mentor to the Talent Campus, even if you haven't got one yourself. So thank you very much indeed.